Hello, how is everyone? How's your last week been? Can someone tell me why I feel as if we're in the middle of December? I'm sitting here, fully dressed, dressing gown on, heating on, and looking outside is not pretty. Sitting watching the telly the other night and literally thought I was in winter. What's it like where you are? Are you somewhere that skipped summer altogether like us? I think we skipped summer, the majority of autumn, and now we're going autumn winter, and I'm hoping for a late summer maybe. Can that happen? Does it happen? Maybe. We did have hopes that when the schools went back the weather would pick up, because that's normally what happens. The kids are off school for the full 7 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is. The first day they go back, the sun's splitting the skies and it's heat wave for the next fortnight, but that didn't happen here. We were left out when it came to the sunshine, as always in Glasgow. How did you find last week's episode? Have you watched it? Have you listened to it even? Watched it? I've not started visually recording it yet. It is coming, I promise. Was there anything that you related with? I mean, I think regardless of whether you're male or female, you will come across something at some point in your life, or someone at some point in your life, that presumes, has assumptions, expectations of who you might be or who you should be, and it can make you feel a certain way sometimes. Like, if you're not that person, then you start to think, should I be? Am I not doing something right? Or are you more confident than that? Because obviously confidence can come into it. So if you're confident in the person that you are, and there's many of us that won't be confident. I know there were certain parts of my life where I had very little, maybe even no confidence at all. I don't know whether it's an age thing now, or whether it's just I've grown into the person that I've always meant to be. But I'm definitely more confident, and not confident in the sense where I'm arrogant. Confident in the person that I am. Confident in the fact that I know I'm a good person. I know I'm a good mum. And I know I'm in the job that I should be, and I can be helping people and doing the right things. And none of us are perfect. None of us will get it right 100% of the time. But as long as you're trying to do the right things, that's all anybody can ask of you. That's all you can ask of yourself. As long as you try, and if you don't get it right first time, try again if you feel you want to. If you want to move on to something else, that's absolutely fine. As long as you're happy in your decisions and you're not hurting anybody, then that's got to be your main priority. We're all coming down with bugs. I've got my youngest who's coughing, spluttering everywhere. My oldest is sneezing and sniffling, and as you can hear, my voice is a bit croaky, manly some might say, and that's not an expectation of a female, is it, to have a manly voice? But yeah, we're all starting to come down with the lovely bugs, is that how we would put it? The allergy that we get when we've got a change in weather, although the weather doesn't change very much here. So as I said last week, I am continuing the expectations of females and males onto this week's podcast. I've also got some statistics. I've obviously done some research on different things, and hopefully it'll help us all kind of look at the world a bit differently, look at people differently, stop expecting too much or stop expecting anything. Why should we expect somebody to be a certain way if they're happy the way they are? Why should we tell them how to live their life? As long as that person is not, as I said previously, hurting anybody, they're not doing anything illegal, and their morals, as long as they're happy with who they are, then we can't tell them to be a different person. And if they're not the right person for you, then whether it's a friendship, a family member, a partner, whatever it may be, a work colleague, if that's not the right person with you, if you aren't clicking, maybe you are just meant to go in separate ways and have a relationship in a different way. So say for example you're in a committed relationship with that person, but there's certain things that just don't click with the two of you. Maybe you are meant to be friends, maybe you are meant to be partners, but you are just got to see each other in a different way, look at each other in a different way is what I was meaning to say there, sorry. There's different ways to overcome situations, and it doesn't mean that you have to cut somebody out of your life, or it doesn't mean you have to get that person to change. And if you're unsure of how to look at that, because sometimes when you're in that situation, it is hard to look at it from different angles. It is hard to look at solutions, I think is what I was trying to say there, not resolutions. Trying to fix things without making that person be a completely different person from who they are. And if you're unsure how to go about that, drop a message and I'll try and start you on the right sort of way of thinking, how to look at things in different ways. Not telling you how to look at things, but giving you ideas. Not telling you how to speak to somebody, but giving you ideas. That sort of thing. So, expectations. Some might expect a female to dress, in inverted commas, appropriately. Dress feminine, cover themselves up. Or some might expect females to show a little bit more. And again, that can sometimes come down to your expectations of that person. So if you expect somebody, or if you come across somebody, let's use a lawyer, for example, who's going to be in court. They are going to be up in front of judges, speaking to very professional people, defending people in different situations, not always criminal. You expect them to be dressed a certain way. And I think most of us would probably think business attire, suit jackets, shirts, ties when it's men. When it's women, it could be a blouse and a dress suit, or a dress, a smart dress. But that might not be how they dress all the time. Maybe when they're going to court, but what if they've got a day in the office and they're maybe just doing paperwork? Do they still have to dress that same way? Do you expect them, if you were to pop into the office in a day that they maybe don't normally see clients and maybe just doing paperwork or doing some research, whatever, and you popped in just to see if they could see you on the off chance, would you expect them to be dressed appropriately, again in inverted commas? Would you expect them to have business dress on, or would you not mind if they were a bit more relaxed in the way they were dressed? I think the same with teachers. Would you expect a teacher to be well covered up? And I'm going to maybe say especially high school teachers, and I don't mean that in the way that it sounds. Some people might take it, I mean it in a certain way. I don't. I'm just saying especially, and the reason I'm saying especially high school teachers is because you've got teenagers full of hormones. So if they maybe see a bit of leg or a bit of cleavage, and not because the teacher's dressed inappropriately, she maybe it's a summer's day and she wanted to wear something a bit more suited to the weather, would that be acceptable? What do you think? I mean, I think as long as they're teaching, and they're teaching well, and you teach your children to have respect, and you teach your children about expectations, then why can't the teacher wear maybe dress shorts, slightly shorter skirt, or a top, maybe a t-shirty top that's a bit lower? I don't know. You tell me what you think. Other things that people maybe expect of females is to be polite, to speak in a certain manner. Now, I think I've said before in some of my other podcasts, at least one podcast, my mum's always said I should be a boy. And a lot of that stems from my mouth. Because I have been known to say exactly what I think. I have been known to have a mouth like a sailor. I'm not always as polite as what I am on the podcast or when I'm at work. And yeah, that doesn't make you a bad person. That just means that sometimes you're a bit relaxed and you're comfortable in your environment, so you can speak your mind or whatever. We've known of people who can speak polite, come across very polite, posh some might say, who aren't very nice people. We also know there's many people in the public eye who we expect to live their life a certain way. We expect them to be role models to our younger generations, and they aren't always. I'm not going to name any names, dead or alive. That's not for me to put that out there. It's not for me to judge anybody. It's not me trying to get attention from what these people have done. But you will know, you'll have heard all the stories, you'll have read it in the news, and we read it all the time. There's also people on the internet who, in inverted commas, are influencers, and they maybe don't come across the way you would want the younger generation to be influenced. They maybe do drugs, they maybe don't treat people as nice as you would expect yourself or anybody that you know to treat others. Yeah. And it's that age-old saying sometimes of don't meet your hero, because what you see might not be what you get. So how you perceive them in a film, a TV role, whatever it may be, you've got to remember that's just a character, that's not actually them. And even the ones that are on reality TV, to an extent, they may be playing a character. And even the ones that play up to be the baddie aren't always as bad as what they come across. But that's what's made them famous, being the baddie. So they play up to it. But in their personal life, they may be a bit nicer. And this is both males and females, to be fair. This isn't one gender type thing. We're going to be talking about everybody. When I was looking on the internet, doing some research, and I typed in expectations of females, one of the words that stood out to me was accommodating. Excuse me, I'm fighting a fly. When you hear the words accommodating and a female together in the one sentence, what would be your initial thought? I didn't think that was a great word. But again, it could be because of my personal experience of some people want you to be accommodating in certain ways. So you might come across a man. Now, I'm talking about females at the minute because that's my experience. I'm obviously female. And you've maybe smiled at somebody at a bar, or you've spoke to somebody online, whatever, and then they want you to be accommodating to their needs. And you might not see them in that way. You might not want to do that. That might not be your thing. Maybe you only have sexual relationships with somebody you're in a relationship with. Maybe you're waiting for the right person to come along. Maybe you just didn't see that person in that way. Maybe you weren't attracted to them, but you found them nice enough to talk to. Or maybe you were just being polite, as we were talking about earlier. So again, when it comes to sex or sexual relationships and females, it's a bit contradictory, because you'll get some men, I'm not going to say all because not all of them are the same. Some men are happy to go out and have one night stands and forget about you, have sex with a girl or male. Sorry, my fly is on my mic. They're happy enough to have sex that one night and then bin you off, if you want to put it like that. Never see you again, or forget that you exist. But then they don't want to be with a female who's had sexual relations before. This is where it gets contradictory, because so it's alright for you to sleep with females as long as you're not settling down with that person, but you want to settle down with somebody who maybe has had very little partners or none. Why is it okay for men to sleep with whoever they want but not women? It's very old-fashioned. Now, I'm not saying I sleep about or anything like that. I mean, it's been a while for me, and I've never really been that type of person. Obviously, we've all had sexual relationships, we've all done whatever. Obviously, I've had sex, I've got 2 kids. But why is it okay? Why is it men can sleep with as many women as they want, or men as they want, and they get the golden handshake, well done, pat in the back, whatever it may be. But if a woman wants to do the same thing, she gets called every name under the sun. Bearing in mind that she may have had X amount of sexual partners, but they may have all been relationships. They may not have been all one night stands, and even if they were, what's it got to do with you? That is her past, the same as you may have a past. I'm not judging anybody here either way, but please think about how you see people. It can't be one rule for one and another rule for someone else or the other sex, whatever. So yeah, bear that in mind. And then one of the other words that popped up when I was researching was nurturing. And I think, yeah, we all, maybe not expect, but we all think of females in a nurturing role as in being mum. And when you think of, I know personally when I was younger and I thought of myself being a mum, and it's, you have this image in your head of all the love you're giving that child and they're giving back to you, and the cuddles and the days out and the food. But what is nurturing? Nurturing can be so many different things. It can be showing that love and affection and making that child, person, whoever it is you're nurturing, feel safe. But you've also got nurturing in the sense of a teacher who is nurturing your child's mind, helping them learn. And these roles don't have to just be down to women. Men can nurture too. Men, I'm sure, would love to nurture. Some men, again, everybody's different, not everybody, and not every female wants to be a mum or a teacher. The same as there'll be men out there who don't want to be a dad or a teacher. But when you do take on these roles, I think you need to put 100% in. You really do. You can't go into these roles half-hearted, even if it was you became a parent, an unplanned parent, let's say it like that. Because I don't think any child should be known as a mistake. No child should ever be a mistake. It may come sooner than you expected. It may come with a different person than you expected, but shouldn't affect how you treat that child. Shouldn't ever make a child feel that they were not wanted at that time. So that's not just down to what gender you are. We all should be nurturing, and not even just nurturing children, nurturing elderly as well. If you're taking care of elderly, you've got to make them feel, especially if they've maybe got dementia or whatever, and they may be living in a time zone of the past. But we'll move on to men for the minute. When I was doing my research of men, and it was very much what you thought, what I thought would pop up, what you may have thought would pop up, think would pop up. One of the things we mentioned last week is the role of the provider. So as I said last week, men are always seen, or mainly seen as, especially when they get married or settle down and start having children, or it'll be the man that'll go out to work and the man will be the provider, he'll be the breadwinner, he'll bring the money in, and a lot of weight on that man's shoulders, especially if they've maybe had got a mortgage when both parties were working. Maybe their finances were obviously better when both were working. I mean, obviously through the years, sometimes you'll maybe get a wage rise, you'll maybe go up the ladder in your work. What if the man doesn't want to be the provider? What if the woman wants to be the provider? What if the woman brings in more money than the man, or the man wants to be the full-time house person, caregiver, however you want to word it, stay-at-home parent, and his wife is very happy with that, but they feel pressured because other family members or friends or whoever else that actually shouldn't have an opinion on how your life runs think that, oh no, the woman should stay at home and the man should go out to work. And they kind of, I suppose men can get ridiculed quite a lot. And some men might call it banter. It's not always banter. It's not banter if you're laughing at a person and not with them. If they're not laughing at the joke or seem uneasy with the joke, it's not a joke. So don't instinctively think that the man's going to be the breadwinner or the provider. If the man wants to stay at home, he can stay at home. There's also options where you can both work, and if you want to save on childcare, it may be that you both might work certain days a week. Maybe you work 12 hours a day instead of 8 hours, and you could maybe do that 3 days a week each. Or maybe one works day shift, one works night shift. Yeah, at some point you'll be passing late shifts passing in the night. But if it is like that, then my best advice would be, on your days off, try, if your work will allow it, try schedule days off as the same days off. So maybe you both work Monday to Friday and you get the weekend off. Make the most of that time off together so that you are still connecting as a family. You don't want to be distancing yourself too much, because that's when problems start creeping in, and that's when people's heads kind of go a different way and they start overthinking, and they might be thinking about something that's not even happening. So just be mindful. Relationships come first, whether it be committed relationships, friendships, relationships with your children, whatever. You need to make certain things a priority, and outsiders shouldn't be one of them. Obviously, work is a priority in the sense of that's where your income comes from, but if your work isn't benefiting you or it's not helping, it's causing problems, maybe don't just give up your job, because that's not going to be a solution. That just puts you into more problems, because then you're trying to find money, you're constantly trying to find money to pay the bills and blah blah blah. And there's an old saying where it's easier to find a job when you're in a job. And that's for many reasons, because you don't feel as much pressure when you're in a job to find another job. But also, a lot of employers may look at the fact that you're employed at the minute and may see you as the better option, not maybe knowing the reason why you're not out of a job. That's not always the case, because it might be they want you to start tomorrow. And if you're in a job, that's not as easy. Assertive was another word that popped up when it came to expectations of men. And again, everybody's idea of assertive is different. And sometimes, I know personally, and it may be from my experience, sometimes when you see a man as being assertive, it can come across more angry, more aggressive. But that's down to the man. That's down to the person they are. And that could be, again, communicate. If you find them being assertive in a more aggressive way, maybe asking them to tone it down a wee bit. And then something else was avoid anything seen as feminine. Now, this isn't only, some people might think, oh, if a man is wearing anything that comes across as feminine, they've maybe got a slightly higher pitched voice, everybody always presumes they're gay. That's not always the case. A man can still be a man and be slightly more feminine. They can like sort of feminine jewellery, sunglasses, things like that. They can, and what you see as being feminine, they might not. We can't judge what people decide to wear, how to live their life, especially when it's not part of our life. So if you're walking by somebody in the street and a man's maybe wearing mascara or a bit of foundation, he's not hurting you. It's not affecting your life in any way. So why does it bother you? It's not that serious. It's not that big. Just let them be who they want to be. Everybody should be allowed to be who they want to be. Anyway, that's that. That's my rant for the day. Maybe let's see how the rest of the podcast goes. I mean, you've also got, like, when you talk about men wearing things feminine, there's women that will wear things that you might think's masculine. Why is that okay? Do you know what I mean? Like, your wife might wear your hoodie, your t-shirt, your joggers, whatever, that's okay because that's seen as sexy sometimes. But if a man wears something that looks a wee bit feminine, not necessarily his wife's joggies, hoodie, it's that whole one rule for one, another for somebody else again. That's like, just let it be, as the Beatles said. Right, stats. So some mental health stats for 2024 in the UK. More than 1 in 7 adults say their mental health is currently either bad or the worst it's ever been. Why do we think it's getting worse than better as the years are going on? Is it because we're still kind of getting over COVID? And I don't mean actual having COVID, I just mean the whole lockdown pandemic scenario. Is it because we're still trying to overcome that, and maybe you had some issues during then, maybe you were furloughed, maybe you couldn't pay all your bills, maybe you're still trying to catch up on bills, lost loved ones, missing out in relationships, that can all contribute. We're also in a recession again. We're always in a recession, it feels. So that's not going to help matters. And again, if we go back to the man being the breadwinner and blah blah blah, what if they've lost their job during COVID of no fault of their own and they've built up? I mean, mental health can take a long time to show, and some people don't ever show that they've got mental health issues. They're struggling with their mental health, they've got depression, whatever it may be. Some people are very, very good at hiding it. I know I was to an extent. Obviously I couldn't hide my eating disorder, but I could make excuses. I was very good at, I don't want to say lying because lying is quite a strong word. I mean, I was lying, but I was trying to protect myself. I also try to protect others as well when I would come out with my excuses. But when we watch rom-coms, as they're called, and it's always the female that's sitting crying into the tub of ice cream to her friends about how she misses the man. But we have to remember that there is also men who are feeling the same way. I'm not saying they're sitting crying into a tub of ice cream, but if they are, that's okay. You're allowed to do that. I mean, we all love a bit of ice cream, we all love a good cry. But when you're watching the female doing it, they tend to talk to their friends, whereas men generally don't talk about their feelings, and that's one of the things that we need to overcome. That's one of the things where we can't have one rule for one, another rule for another. So we can't say, oh, it's okay for a woman to show her emotions, but not for a man, because that's where potential suicide can come in. So more women than men are currently struggling. Now, these stats are based on, obviously, certain websites, and they won't have... There's obviously people out there struggling with their mental health that hasn't told anybody, so they obviously won't be contributed into the stats. Don't know how many people it's based on, because it doesn't give you a number. Or say for example, if somebody done a survey, it would say 100 people were surveyed and 50% or whatever. This doesn't tell you how many people this is based on. So it says that 18.5% female struggling versus 12.5% of males are struggling with their mental health. The NHS are saying, which if you don't live in the UK is the National Health Service within the UK, 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 10 children experience mental illness. That's really, really high. I mean, if you think of a family, every family round about you, maybe in your housing estate, whatever, and there might be 4 people living in every house. Let's look at it like that. If every house round about you, including yours, has 4 people in it, potentially 1 person in every house is going to have an issue with their mental health. They're going to struggle with their mental health. Then if you think about a classroom, now in Scotland anyway, you're going to roughly get, say, 30 children in every class. So in every class you've potentially got 3 children who are going to have struggles with their mental health or have a mental health illness. That is a lot. So say for example in a primary school you've maybe got 2 or 3 classes for each year. So let's potentially 21 classes, let's just say. 21 times 3, 63 children in every school are potentially going to be struggling with their mental health or have a mental health illness. That's big. And you think about the amount of schools that are out there. Not just UK wide, worldwide. And that's just an average. I'm just basing that on an average. You'll have schools that are bigger. You will have schools that are smaller. Some schools maybe have less. Other schools will have more children struggling. But that is just a kind of average to look at, almost like an abacus. That's a lot. And you will find that if children are struggling with their mental health, it's going to carry on into adulthood. Obviously depending on what it is and the reasonings behind it. You've also maybe got children that are in care, being fostered, being adopted. How's that affecting their mental health? And again, it'll all be down to the reasonings why, the support they've got. Obviously, some areas maybe get better support than others. Again, I've said this a million times, I would love to have a magic wand, a magic potion, a magic whatever, that would just rectify everybody's mental health. In an ideal world, we'd all be happy and living healthy. But unfortunately, life isn't as easy as that. And the best we can do is look out for each other, be kind and be mindful. And there's still many people in life that very much are of the mindset that children can't have mental health struggles. What have they got to struggle about? Well, very much. I mean, if the family they're coming from lives in poverty, that's going to have an impact on the child. If a child's being bullied, that's going to have an impact. Children lose parents every day. And it might be to a terminal illness, it might be to suicide, it might be to an accident. You also have children out there that, again, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but there will be parents that are going through domestic abuse, children that are going through abuse in different ways, sexually, violently, whatever, mental abuse. The list is endless, so don't ever say that a certain category of people or a certain person has nothing to worry about, because when somebody is struggling with their mental health or going through a situation, they very much learn how to put a mask on it and show you what you want to see. Nobody wants to see somebody crying 24/7. They might be crying inside. I know I have been many times. But they'll show you a happy face. They'll not show you that they are struggling, that they are hurting, that they are maybe at their weakest point. Because if you show somebody weakness, we've always been taught this. We've all been taught it at some point in our life. Somebody said it at some point in our life. Show weakness and people kind of treat you whatever they want. They can walk all over you. Sometimes showing weakness, people will show you kindness and try and help you. Just trying to find the right people, isn't it? What are you thinking about the stats so far? Are you shocked at the stats? Or did you think they would have been worse? Do you agree with them? I'd love to hear your opinions. And it's not your opinion is wrong because you don't agree with the stats, or your opinion is right because you do agree with the stats. It's your opinion and you're allowed your opinion. Again, as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not kind of bullying, harassing, putting people down, making any situations worse, as long as you're being mindful and being kind, then give us your opinion. You can write in or you can comment on my social media. We all have to learn how to look out for some signs. Sometimes you hear a lot of people saying they've got a first aid certificate, they're a first aider, they've been in a first aid course. Mental health first aid should be spoke about more. You can do a mental health first aid course as well. You may have to pay for it on your own. You can get ones that are slightly cheaper than others, but they'll be very insightful, and they might teach you a few things that may help you throughout your life, but also help others that you come across. So if you're interested in if you're interested in mental health, it might be something to look at. And if you want any pointers of where to go and look, you can ask me the question, or with everything else, Google's a great tool. So the priority group, we've heard about the priority group many times, I'm sure, on the news. Not in a bad way, just talking about different people that have used them. A lot of celebrities maybe use them. But in their research, they say that 79% of adults feel stressed at least one day a month. I know what a lot of you men are thinking. You're thinking it's because it's the time of the month. But it could be that you're getting towards payday and you've no money left, or you're down to your last tenner. It could be somebody that's going through a cancer treatment and that's the day that they need to go to hospital for results. There's many things that can cause you stress. Something to do with your children. You're going to parents' night and you're worried about what the teachers are going to say. It's a wee bit of a joke, but I know some people may be worried about that. They say that 1 in 14 people, which is approximately 7%, now this is in the UK, say that they feel stressed. So can you imagine what the results would be if it was worldwide? And obviously there's countries, now if you think about some of the countries that are maybe less fortunate than us, yeah, we see the adverts on the telly where they're really sad and they're crying, the flies and everything, and it's heartbreaking. But some of these countries are actually very happy as well, because like most things in life, if you've never had it and you've never seen it, you've never lived it, then you don't know, so you don't miss it. You may wonder why, or ifs, or what's that, or how does that work, or whatever else. But sometimes the more basic life is the happier life. Not always. And there's a joke that a lot of people make, maybe people with money, maybe people that don't have money. I'm not sure where it started, where it stemmed from, but there's a sort of joke or a comment that people make, and it's, money can't bring or buy you happiness, but it makes you a richer, kind of sad or unhappy, miserable, lonely, depending on how your life is. So yeah, you can't buy happiness. You've got to create it, and you create it in whatever makes you happy. So yeah, you could have all the money in the world, but you might still be lonely. You maybe still not be able to find that one partner that you can trust. You could win the lottery, and then you get to a point where you don't know if your friends are being genuine. Are they really friends with you or friends with your money? I know I make the joke all the time, probably every week, that I'm going to win the lottery. But again, it's just a joke, because would you actually be happier? I mean, yeah, things would be a bit easier maybe financially for you, but you would be constantly looking over your shoulder. You'd be constantly worried maybe about safety, trust, and that money's not necessarily going to last forever. There's many people out there that we've seen on the news or on TV who have won the lottery, or they have been millionaires or had very many zeros at the end of their bank balance, and they end up with nothing. They maybe invested it wrong, or they've squandered it, whatever it may be. So yeah, money isn't going to buy you happiness, and it may not live forever. And you can't buy friendships either. You can't buy friendships, you can't buy partners, you can't buy a husband, you could buy a husband or a wife, but it's not really kind of husband or wife that you're wanting, is it? So spiralling demand means that more than 1.8 million people await mental health treatment, and there's a chronic shortage of beds for mental health patients. Now sees the NHS paying £2 billion per year to private hospitals that report profit margins of up to 20%. So anybody that's got any private sector, private hospital that's got a profit margin of 20% or less, Combined, they're getting up to £2 billion per year from the NHS. I mean, that's crazy money, that's crazy statistics. So we'll move on to worldwide. Worldwide, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 3 men will experience major depression in their life. More than 700,000 people worldwide will die by suicide every day. That's a lot. That's a crazy amount of people. It's heartbreaking, because how have 700,000 people got to that point? Not all of them have maybe been able to hide it. Have they all been kind of forgotten about? Have they shut themselves away? Have they not been able to source the right treatment, or maybe not got the right treatment in time? Long waiting lists are a big thing. Obviously with the NHS, which is again the National Health Service in the UK, I know in recent years there was a cut to the funding. Anybody that doesn't live in the UK and unsure about how the NHS works, it's funded by, you pay like national insurance and tax, so your national insurance funds to an extent the NHS. That's what pays for it. Your national insurance and tax comes off your pay at the end of the month, end of the week, however you get paid. Businesses pay it however they pay it. So for myself, for example, I am what's called a sole trader, because I obviously have another business. I don't just have the podcast, I have a therapy business. I'm classed as a sole trader, just me, myself and I within my business. So I pay mine every year, my national insurance and tax. I go on, tell them how much I've earned, tell them how much my outgoings were for the business that year, and then they tell me how much I need to pay at the end of submitting all my information on my tax form. Obviously, if you're employed, your employer takes it out your pay slip, your wage, and they pay it on your behalf. And then businesses, they contribute towards it as well. So that's why, although it's known as we get free NHS health treatment, we actually pay for it in another way. And I think in America and maybe other countries you have like insurance. So I don't particularly know how every country works when it comes to their healthcare, but that's how it works in the UK. And each department of the NHS will get X amount of money from the government each year for their funding. So the government did deduct the funding for mental health treatment for the whole of the UK. And you could almost look at it as they done that at a time where mental health treatment is needed more than ever. Now, we've already gone through so many statistics that prove that proves that mental health is still, you could call it an epidemic, a pandemic, because it's still very, very high. I mean, if you're going to say 1 in 3 women worldwide are experiencing major depression, and 1 in 5 males worldwide are experiencing major depression in their lives, that's not just 1 or 2 people worldwide, that's 1 in 3 or 1 in 5. Something needs to be done. And yeah, there is people out there who can afford to go private, and I've said it many times, I am a private counsellor, private coach, but not everybody can afford to go private. And my heart breaks for the people that don't get the help they want. Now, I've said it many a times, and I don't say it for any reason other to prove a point that funding shouldn't be cut. I have helped people free of charge. I don't earn any money from some people who really, really can't afford to pay to go private, but they also can't afford to wait 3 years for an appointment. And sometimes waiting that time is only for your initial appointment to see if you want to see how far gone you are, where you sit in the scale, what your issues are, who you might need to see, what department you might need to go to. And then once you get that appointment, you're back on another waiting list for another X amount of time till somebody else has got a free appointment for you. I mean, I've said before, my son's autistic, and I've noticed that sometimes when he goes for his appointments, it's like rush to get you through X amount of appointments, and then they'll go, right, that's it, we're closing your case now. And with a lot of these kids, it's not the right time to close a case. They're still struggling. You've not helped them in any way, but that department has got such a big waiting list. They're almost like trying to get rid of each patient as quick as possible. Now, I'm not just saying that as a parent. I have spoke to nurses that have worked along with my son, and they've complained many times of the pressure and also the cut in funding. I have also been approached by NHS departments who have asked if they can send some of their clients my way because they really don't have time or the funding to help them. That is, yeah, that's fine, send them my way, but who's picking up the bill? And I'm not saying that as in I want paid, but I'm saying it as in if somebody's waiting for an appointment on the NHS, I really hope the NHS are not expecting them to pay private because you're telling them to go private. I hope the NHS are going to pick up that bill for them, because that's what they're expecting, is the NHS to provide. They've paid their tax, they've paid their national insurance, so NHS, it's time to cough up and help them. In case you haven't noticed, I'm very passionate about this. It gets me so angry. And you might be like, but you're a private counsellor. How can you be angry because you're getting paid? I'm a private counsellor for the reason that I have to work certain hours because of my son's needs, and the hours that I work aren't always suitable for an employer. Also, it means that I can help some people who are in a position that they can pay quicker than if they were to wait on the NHS. So there's different reasons for it. It's not out of reasons that some people might think. And there also is, there's a place for everybody. There's a place, so private, NHS, whatever, there's space out there for us all. I think what most people need to take from this is, because obviously this whole podcast, we started off talking about expectations. So going by the suicide rates, the mental health rates, the percentages, the numbers, don't expect anything from anybody because you think that that's how that particular gender should behave, or that's how they should live their life, or that is how they should dress, they should be seen, or the job they should be doing, the role they should be playing. Don't expect anything from anybody. Allow people to live the life that they want to live, as long as they're not hurting anybody, as long as they're not doing anything illegal. And when I say hurting people, I don't just mean physically hurting people, I mean mentally, emotionally, physically, sexually. Don't judge anybody because you think people should live a certain way. They might not agree with how you live your life, and you wouldn't want them to judge you on that. None of us are perfect. I mean, some of us might be a bit more perfect than others. I'm only joking. But no, none of us are perfect. We'll all make mistakes in our life, and the point of mistakes is to learn from them, grow, and sometimes we change over the years. We see things in a different way over the years, sort of through different eyes as you get older maybe. If you think about how you seen the world when you were a teenager compared to how you see it now, maybe in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever age you might be, I'm sure there's some opinions you had back then that maybe don't resonate now. I know my cousin, and she'll laugh if she's listening to this, and she'd better be listening to it. When we were about somewhere between 8 and 10, I think we were only about 8 maybe, don't think we were as old as 10, but I remember, I think we were watching a programme, or somebody must have been turning 40, I don't know, can't remember what the situation was, but she said to me, oh my God, I better not get to 40. If I get as old as that, if I get to 40, you better shoot me. Now, of somebody that's of that age now, a little bit older, 40's not old. We know that now. We've learned. We've lived and learned. So when it was her 40th birthday, I reminded her of that conversation. And I did ask her if I was allowed to shoot her, because now that she was turning 40 and we just had a laugh and a joke about it. But I mean, even growing up, talking about ages, when I think back to when you look at your mum or dad or grandparents, whoever it may be, you don't ever see them aging over the years. So maybe when you were 4 or 5 compared to when you were 10, 15, they maybe always just kind of looked the same. They never really looked as if they were getting any older. So you didn't necessarily, or when we were young anyway, which was a very long time ago, you didn't really know what age anybody was. I know we definitely didn't know the ages of our parents when we were growing up, or at least I can't remember knowing, which is quite funny because nowadays kids know everything, don't they? They know everything. They know more than us, apparently. They tell us more than us. My son keeps telling me I'm a boomer. Now, I'm guessing it's not a compliment. I know it's something to do with being old, or I think it's something to being old, but there I'm showing my age because they've got this whole other language now. We probably had words that we used. I don't actually think we did. But yeah, I'm a boomer apparently. Both sons came out with words and I'm like, what does that mean? But do you ever get to a point where your children say something and you don't want to ask them what it means because it might prove their point? I kind of think that sometimes. And then you're on Google and you're like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Using the Urban Dictionary, I know that much. I know there's an Urban Dictionary where you can look up certain words, but again, is that like the normal dictionary where somebody dictates what words go into it? I don't know. It's too... My brain's just trying to get through menopause, never mind trying to think of all these blooming words. So, again, I've rapped over something else. What was I going to talk about? He's nearly got away with it. Right, so we've been talking about expectations. Something else that kind of goes hand in hand with it is, and you probably aren't going to expect what I'm going to say, equality. Equal rights. Now, as you all know, I am female and I do believe in equal rights. But, come on, some are the feminists. Do they just like arguments? I don't want to offend anybody. I am not. I don't know what I want to say here without offending anybody. I am not presuming. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Right, anyway, let's just move on because my brain fog's just kicked in, I think. Right, so equal rights, equality. Equal rights for male and female. Yes, I agree. It would be amazing. But, see this picking and choosing? What you want to have equal rights on and what you don't. Can you stop it? If you want equal rights for a female as what men have got, please expect men to have equal rights in what a female has got. Do not say, I want equal rights as men, but no, they're not allowed to say same rights as us. I'm getting angry. Don't want to see angry, Eileen. And by the way, I'm very hormonal this week. I've got PMT, so I need to be careful on how much rage comes out. TMI. Right, so equal rights should be equal for everybody. And do not pick and choose where you want them to be equal. They should be 100% equal down the line. So, if you want the same rate of pay as a man, yes, you're with me, please expect to 1, do the exact same job as a man, 2, work the exact same hours as a man. 3, if you're entitled to maternity leave for up to a year, please allow that man to have paternity leave for up to a year. Because you want equal rights, they're entitled to equal rights. If you want, I'm trying to think of another situation. Yes, so if you want your rights to be 100% equal as the man has to have 100% rights equal to you. Now, this isn't me trying to pick an argument. This isn't me trying to stir the pot from all the feminists out there. Now, I'm all for females, female equality and all that. But if you want female equality, we need to have a wee bit of balance here. We need to have male equality. So, where do we draw the line when it comes to equal rights? What's your opinion on equal rights? I think I'll probably carry this on, not next week, but I'll bring this topic back another time. But just because we were on the whole expectations thing, if you are expecting equal rights, 100% equal rights to what a man has, then the man is equally entitled to expect 100% equality rights as a woman has. So if a woman has to finish work at 2:30 because she has no childcare and has to go and pick her child up at school for 3 o'clock, then your employer cannot say no to a male colleague who also doesn't have childcare and has to go and pick his child up at 2 o'clock. And I get what you're going to say, but why can't the mum go and pick the child up? Well, let me tell you, expectations. Why should we expect the mum to go and pick the child up? Maybe the mum's in a more hands-on role. Maybe the mum's a surgeon and can't just drop things at the drop of a hat. I mean, you can't really walk out of surgery, well, theatre, whatever you want to call it. You can't walk out an operation, you're in the middle of doing cutting somebody's leg off, and you make the first incision, and then you go, oh, wait a minute, you go and pick my Wayne up at school. Child. Wayne is Scottish for child. I need to go and pick my child up from school, so I'll come back in an hour and finish cutting your leg off. Do you know what I mean? So, please, please, please be careful what you wish for. Be careful. The other thing as well is, what if that man is a single parent for whatever reason? It could be his partner is no longer here, wife, whatever. He maybe went through surrogacy to be a single parent. He may be adopted as a single parent. He maybe has the mother or the other father has had their parental rights taken off them for whatever reason. Maybe they're not allowed near the child. Maybe there's no grandparents to help. Maybe there is no support and help. And childcare, let me tell you, costs an absolute fortune. And yeah, sometimes you can get help towards your childcare, but not always. That's all means tested. That's all dependent on, 1, where you live in the world, and 2, how much you earn. So please be careful with this whole equal rights thing, because I do think to an extent some people are getting a wee bit carried away with themselves. You want your rights to be equal, but you don't want that for anybody else. Now that's not being kind, is it? And sharing's caring and all that jazz, you know. So yeah, just stop. Like, if you want equal rights, that's absolutely fine, but don't say you just want equal rights for you. If you want equal rights, it needs to be across the board. It needs to be for everybody. and not just for you. But I'm going to stop that topic now because PMT and equal rights, it's not going to go very well. I'm sure many people tell you how passionate I am about that one as well. Burn your bras all you want, and do your protests and do whatever you want. Like, yeah, make a point, make a stand. But remember that if you get whatever put in place, then it's got to be across the board. It can't just be for a small minority of people. Please, thank you, kindly, breathe. I don't really want to finish on that topic because it's a bit yeah, it gets your energy flowing. I'm trying to think if I've done anything daft. I mean, I have, if I'm talking about in my lifetime, I've done many things daft. I'm trying to think if it right, I'm whispering as if my neighbours can hear me, but they really can't. But I really hope they don't listen to this podcast. But I mean, I do want them to listen to it, right? But I don't. I think my neighbours are swingers. Did you hear that? I think my neighbours might be swingers. Now, the only reason I remembered that is because I just looked outside and seen her bedding, hanging outside drying. I don't know if I should be telling you this story because there's actually there's no proof to it. I've just built this story. I've built this story up in my head and it's grew arms and legs. Should I tell you? Right, don't tell anybody. You need to keep this to yourself. And if any other neighbours are listening, it's not about you. I promise. I'm not telling you what neighbour, but if you're not the neighbour I'm talking about, I'll tell you who I think it is. If you are the neighbour I'm talking about, I'll tell you it's somebody else. Sorry, I can't stop laughing every time I talk about this. It's not that I talk about it all the time, right? But this makes me laugh because this is how my mind works, right? I've got neighbours and how can I put it? We live in a cottage flat, a 4 block, however you want to describe it. They are very old. They're over 100 years old, these buildings, like 100 and... When were they born? They weren't born, were they? They were built in 1800 something. Jeez, oh, that's an awful lot of time, years ago. Right, so anyway, the walls are paper thin. To give you an example, my son went to drill a hole in the wall the other day to hang up, see one of the things you hang your keys on, and the wall basically crumpled. I did not buy this house. I rent it, so not my problem. Anyway, or if you take the wallpaper down to repaper, the wall comes with it. One of the houses, a house that Jack built, as some people might say, some might know that's phrase, some won't. But yeah, so the walls are paper thin, right? And I've got this neighbour who, every time she hangs out a certain bedding, now I think this is her calling card, right? Calling card, is that the right phrase? I'm using that one. And it's only this certain bedding, right? It's very flowery. Oh, I shouldn't have said that, because now she'll know it's her. Right, anyway. So when she hangs out this certain bedding, I'm still whispering because she might hear me and I'm scared there. I mean, I'm not scared there, but I'm scared there. When she hangs out this certain bedding, she always ends up with loads of people in her house. Like, and I think they're all couples. And they're laughing, and they're definitely drinking, right? And they're laughing and they're giggling. And her and her husband end up, they're very happy that morning, the morning before everybody comes over. And they're very happy the next day. I think they're swingers. And then one of my neighbours phoned me yesterday. This is like a gossip column, isn't it now? One of my neighbours phoned me yesterday and she was like, oh my God, he just came out. And she must have been locking the door as he was starting the car, right? Now, remember, you need to keep this to yourself. This is a secret. Because I don't even know if it's true. That's why I'm not telling anybody. I mean, I don't know her name. So I'd be lying if I told you her name. Anyway, she went to open the car door and he drove away without her. So, do we think... And what day is this? Wednesday. So that was Tuesday that happened, right? But on Sunday, they had what I think was one of their wee swingers nights. So I'm thinking something happened at that night and he's still raging. He is fuming. There's a wee domestic going on in there. Now, I've not heard them arguing, and I hear everything. I even hear their child talking. I hear them talking. I hear her doing her housework, like everything. I hear everything. I mean, I don't hear that because I'm not near their bedroom, but I hear everything else. And that swingers night, if it is a swingers night, right, but it is a swingers night, just go with it. It is a swingers night because it sounds better than them just having some pals over. That swingers night went on a lot later than normal, and there was more people. So, word's getting about. But anyway, the reason I remembered that story is because there's washing hanging out the back and it's bedding, but it's not the swingers night bedding. So it's not her calling card, so she's not going to have anybody over tonight. Oh, do you think she's got new bedding? I'll let you know next week, right? If there's another wee night the night, maybe they're making up. Maybe this is the day that they're going to be friends again. I'm scared to look at my window in case she knows I'm talking about her. Anyway, that's my story, right? So, remember, keep that story to yourself. Don't tell anybody. It's our secret. And I'll update you next week if there's another swingers night. Do you think if I just asked her, she would tell me the truth? How can I find out? People call me, well, I say people, my best friend, the one that lives in Turkey. Remember I told you I've got two. One lives in Turkey, one lives in Glasgow. The one that lives in Turkey is from Glasgow. She's actually here in Glasgow just now. So, she calls me CSI Glasgow, which is CSI Glasgow for people that don't talk Glaswegian. Because I find out everything, and I think, I'm telling you, I'm right about this. I know everything. I mean, I don't. I'm very blonde. Not very intelligent. I am, but not intelligent in some ways. Stupid in others. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed my secret story. If anybody wants an update on this, message me. We'll spy on them together, right? If any is... No, I'm not going to say that. If any is live in Glasgow, no. Shh. Right, so... That's my story for this week. Remind me to continue it next week. I would say I'd write a note for myself, but I'll lose a bit of paper. Next week's podcast is about... I don't know. Have I decided? Let's have a wee look at the notepad. Let me tell you, I've got one written down somewhere, but I don't know where. I've got a few, so I've got 2 that are supposed to be recorded with people, 3 that's supposed to be recorded with people, but I have not set dates yet. I might actually phone one of them tonight and see when she can fit it in. So to give you an idea of some of the ones that are coming up, I won't tell you them in order because I don't know what order they're coming in yet. So we've got, sorry, I've got a sore shoulder. The way I've been lying, I've pulled a muscle in my neck and it's went right into my shoulder. So some of the things that are going to be coming up is to do with domestic abuse, which can be mental, physical, or sexual. And within that one, I'm going to do statistics. Have you noticed that's a hard word for me to say? Of how it affects male versus female, etc. How to get help, where to find the help, who to ask for help, and also about breaking the cycle. When I talk about breaking the cycle, it can be that you've seen abuse growing up, or you could be the abuser or being abused and you don't want to carry that on anybody else. You want to break the cycle. So maybe within your family that's been on for generations and generations and generations, and you want to be the person that breaks that cycle. So yeah, going to be doing that one. That one's getting recorded with somebody, I think. Then we're going to be another one's going to be about friendships, and when friendships, or friends should I say, become family. So I've said it many times, You can cut off anybody you want from your life, and it doesn't matter if they are a friend, a family member, a partner you're in a relationship with or been in a relationship with. It can be anybody if they're bringing any kind of negativity or hurt to your life. Till they can prove themselves otherwise, you do not have to have a relationship with them, regardless of how close you are. But sometimes we have friends in our life who are actually more like family than what our family are. And I have a couple of friends like that. And also within that one, we'll be talking about mindfulness, which is something, obviously you've heard me talking about being mindful, being kind, blah, blah, blah. So it's something that I talk about quite a lot, because the more mindful that we can be, the more we can help ourselves and help others. Because if you can be positive to somebody, it also has a positive effect on you. So if you are constantly miserable, you're constantly shouting and arguing and just being negative, then you just create negativity all around you. Your whole aura is going to be negative. Whereas if you're being positive, and I'm not saying you have to be happy, positive 24/7, but the more positive you are within your life, then the more positivity you're going to attract, the more positivity you're going to have around you. You'll see more positive things. You'll see more positive signs around you. You'll see more positive people. Your life will suppose just be a wee bit brighter, if you want to put it like that. Depends how you want to describe it. One of the other ones I'm going to be recording with somebody, potentially 2 people, is about addiction. And again, I've said it to you many times, addiction can come in many forms. You can have, and these are just a few examples, it's not limited to what I'm going to say. You've got obviously drinking, drugs. You've got spending, which can be shopping, or you could be gambling. You've also got sex addiction. These are probably your more common ones, but there is many others. How that can affect your relationships, and it can be with friends, it can be with your children, it can be with any other family member, your partner. The side effects, the mental health side of it, how crime can then come into addiction, and the guilt feeling, etc. And we'll obviously talk about the different types of addiction. Studying, being a student, whether it be you're at school, you're at uni, you're at college, whatever it may be. You could even be doing an apprenticeship because you're still working and studying at the same time. How does that affect your mental health? Where can you go for support within that circle? Mental health misconceptions. There'll be a few other topics within that one as well. And another one is going to, hopefully, we're looking to see if we can speak to somebody who may come on with this one that's worked in this field. Children in care. How can that affect them negatively, but how can that also affect them positively? And again, a few other topics will be in that one that will all relate to it. And one of the other ones is going to be about living abroad. How does that affect your relationships back home? How did you feel when you first moved abroad? How did you choose what country you lived in? Things like that. So yeah, there's quite a few coming up. I just need to figure out what order they're going to be in and book a few people in to get them recorded. But yeah, that's the list so far. If I've not mentioned anything that you would like me to talk about, please write in. You can contact me, as I said previously, on any of the social medias, any of my pages, which I've got Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. I may set up X, Twitter, whatever you call it. I don't know. I might not, because I'm not the best with Twitter. I don't know how to work it. I know how to work it, as in the sense where I put a post up, but I just get lost in Twitter. It just goes right over my head. So I might not start that one up. I might have something else coming up as well that you can subscribe to. If you would like to watch the podcast in the future when I do start doing visuals, if you can subscribe to my podcast channel, which is Reboot Your Thoughts podcast on YouTube. And if you would like to write into us about anything, whether it be a story, topic suggestion, ask for help, ask for advice, then you can email me at rebootyourthoughtspodcast@gmail.com. But for now, I am off to get a drink, figure out what's going on with the neighbours. I'll keep you posted on that one. Here, can you imagine me doing a podcast on swingers? I don't know if I want to do that one because, I'd be scared about what I might find out. I mean, maybe that's the people that are the happiest. You never know. Anyway, for now, I am going to go get a nice cold drink, do something with my shoulder because it's so sore, and I hope you all have a fabulous week. Hopefully you get some sort of decent weather, and I will speak to you all next week. Okay, bye bye.